Hello. Okay, well, I'm here at home, unemployed, bored out of my mind. I thought I would put up another video. This one is going to be, since I have to wear these spectacles, yes, making a spectacle of myself with spectacles. Oh, that was so bad. Okay, yes, I thought I would read something scientific, or try to. I hear a lot from Christians that like to put down the theory of evolution and say, oh, it's just a theory, it's not true, it's just a theory. Like they're in a position to do that when they're coming from... You know what, I get a call from this one multiple times a day, and it's a college. I'm declining it. Okay. They don't have a leg to stand on with creationism. Creationism has about as much evidence as the story of Santa and the reindeer. You know, it's a story from a book that they actually think deserves to be taught in science classes or put in science books when it doesn't remotely deserve even to be called science, or for that matter, pseudo-science. It's not even remotely a theory. You know, the best it can be called is a hypothesis, but it's one that nobody bothered to do anything with. You know, it's like, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to write it down in a book, and people are just going to think it's true for 2,000 or 3,000 years, you know, because I'm going to say that, I'm going to make sure that the book says that it's true, so people think that the book is true because the book says it's true, so it must be true. Yes, the book says it's true, so it's true. Yes, yes, yes. And so we don't even have to try to prove the story of creation. That, you know, something comes from nothing. God waves a magic wand and poof, there it is. Oh, but we're going to laugh at cosmology and evolution and say that, oh, they're just trying to claim that something comes from nothing, when in fact Christianity claims that something comes from nothing anytime that they try to say that the Bible is correct and that the story of creation in the Bible is correct. I'm sorry, but the story of creation describes something that just has always been. There's no explanation for how we got there. He doesn't need a creator, even though the universe does and everything else requires a creator. He does not. He's just always been. And one day, after a millennium of sitting around, floating in darkness, doing absolutely nothing, he decided, you know what? I think I'll just create stuff. There it is. Okay, so... Okay, Christians, what exactly does a hypothesis have to do to become a theory? What does it have to go through to become a theory? When you say, oh, it's just a theory, what exactly are you poo-pooing about? You know, it's not something that your beliefs in creationism even aspires to be. It doesn't make any attempt to be a theory. It just sits there and tries to claim it's true for no reason at all, because except a book says. Okay? The scientific method, as it has to do with earth science. And I got this link, or this article, by typing in what does a hypothesis have to do, or what does it take for a hypothesis to become a theory? Okay, warning, there's a lot of big words, so I cannot guarantee that I will read this very well, but I will give it an attempt. The scientific method attempts to explain the natural phenomena of the universe by using a logical, consistent, systematic method of investigation, information, data collection, data analysis, hypothesis, testing, experiment, and refinement to arrive at a well-tested, well-documented explanation that is well supported by evidence, called a theory. The process of establishing a new scientific theory is necessarily a grueling one. New theories must survive an averse gauntlet of skeptics who are experts in their particular area of science. The original theory may then need to be revised to satisfy those objections. The typical way in which new scientific ideas are debated are through referred scientific journals, such as Nature and Scientific American. Depending upon the area of science, there are many other journals specific to their respective fields that act as referees. Before a new theory can be officially proposed to the scientific community, it must be well written, documented, and submitted to an appropriate scientific journal for publication. If the editors of those prestigious publications accept a research article for publication, they are signaling that the proposed theory has enough merit to be seriously debated and scrutinized closely by experts in that particular field of science. Skeptics or proponents of alternative or opposing theories may then try to submit their research and data, while the original proponents of the proposed theory may publish new data that answers the skeptics. It may take many years of often acrimonious debate to settle an issue, resulting in the adoption, modification, or rejection of a new theory. For example, the Alvarez meteorite impact theory, a 6-mile wide meteorite struck the Earth 65 million years ago, ending the Cretaceous period and causing extinction of the dinosaurs, was first proposed in 1979 and took about 10 years of debate before winning over the majority of Earth scientists. A successful scientific inquiry may culminate in a well-tested, well-documented explanation, theory, that is supported overwhelmingly by valid data, and often has the power to predict the outcome of certain scenarios, which may be tested by future experiments. There are rare examples of scientific theories that have successfully survived all known attacks for a very long time and are called scientific laws, such as Newton's law of gravity. Okay, below is a generalized sequence of steps taken to establish a scientific theory. Scroll down here a bit. Choose and define the natural phenomenon that you want to figure out and explain. Collect information, data, about this phenomenon by going where the phenomena occurred and making observations. Or try to replicate this phenomena by means of a test under controlled conditions, usually in a laboratory, that eliminates interferences from environmental conditions. After collecting a lot of data, look for patterns in the data. Attempt to explain these patterns by making a provisional explanation called a hypothesis. Test the hypothesis by collecting more data to see if the hypothesis continues to show the assumed pattern. If the data does not support the hypothesis, it must be changed or rejected in favor of a better one. In collecting the data, one must not ignore data that contradicts the hypothesis in favor of only supported data. That is called cherry picking and is commonly used by pseudoscientists attempting to scam people unfamiliar with the scientific method. A good example of this fraud is shown by the so-called creationists, who start out with a preconceived conclusion, a geologically young 6,000-year-old Earth, and then cherry-pick only evidence that supports their views, while ignoring or rejecting overwhelming evidence of a much older Earth. If a refined hypothesis survives all attacks on it and is the best existing explanation for a particular phenomenon, it is then elevated to the status of a theory. A theory is subject to modification and even rejection if there is overwhelming evidence that disproves it and/or supports another, better theory. Therefore, a theory is not an eternal or perpetual truth. Yes, only religion uses the T word. The classic scientific method where a convenient laboratory experiment may be devised and observed often cannot be done in the earth sciences. This is because most of earth and geological phenomena are too big, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or too slow mountain building climate change to be observed easily or replicated. The Earth itself is the laboratory. Also because many of the events analyzed by geologists occurred long ago, they often working backwards, that is, they start with the conclusion, a rock or a fossil, and try to work out the sequence of past events that occurred over geologic time. Limitations of the scientific method. The scientific method is limited to those phenomena which can be observed or measured. For example, what existed prior to the Big Bang and the known universe is outside of the realm of science to investigate. So that's the article. It's called Scientific, what's it called? Let me get back up to the top. The Scientific Method. Kind of explains a little bit for somebody like me to understand what exactly happens before a hypothesis is established and accepted as a theory. It's not just, ooh, you know what? I have an idea. I think this, ... Ooh, that's just a theory. You know, there's a difference between what the average person considers to be a theory. I have a theory. Yes, I have a theory that the lightning struck right there, so the next bolt of lightning will strike right there. That's my theory, see? I can come up with theories all day like that. You know, I have a theory that that light bulb is going to last another week and then it's going to go out. That's a theory that I just came up with. You know, there's a huge difference between that definition of a theory, which is more of a suspicion than a theory. It's not even, you know, there's a huge difference between that interpretation of the word theory and the scientific interpretation of the word theory. So when Christians say, oh, it's just a theory, they're talking about, well, I think the light bulb's going to go out in a week. You know, it's not the same thing as what a scientific theory is. And I'm sorry, but creationism doesn't even measure up to remotely even come close to being a theory. It doesn't, it just sits there. Nobody tries to produce evidence or replicate it in a lab. Nobody tries to find evidence that it's true. You know, it's just sits there. And in my 50 years on this planet, I have yet to see any creature pop into existence out of thin air. You know, no new creations are popping up. Just, you know, I see evolution. I see examples of evolution all around. You know what I think is a really good example of evolution is our technology. I think that as an evolved species, it makes sense that what we create would mirror the process that created us. In my 50 years, I have seen technology evolve by leaps and bounds. Somebody who had lived 100 years would see so much more of the same thing. But in my lifetime, I've seen black and white TV only, little tiny, or I've seen it where they've gotten down to little sizes, and that was considered really wonderful. Little tiny black and white TVs, color TVs, you know, TVs. That you had to be wealthy to have a color TV. The idea of having 2 TVs in a household was rather, you know, that was a rare thing. I remember going up and changing the channels with the knobs, switching the knobs back and forth. Okay, channel 11, there were like 3 channels to choose from. Channel 11 looks like shit. Oh, channel 13, you can actually see human-shaped figures, you know, in all the snow and the wavy lines. You can actually see, oh, look, there's Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. You know, you can kind of, and you can maybe sort of hear the dialogue, the volume, the audio through the white sound, you know. And that was long before such a thing as cable came to be. And then 8-track tapes, you know, replaced by cassette tapes. Oh, and of course records replaced by, well, it was records, 8-track tapes, cassette tapes, CDs, now it's digital. and look at the telephone, what it's come through, pick up the thing and hold it to your ear and hello, and now it's this. Oh, let's see, turn this on. Not only can I look at the telephone or dial numbers, I can get the weather, I can talk to people with this. This is a little computer. Remember when computers actually filled up the size of a room? If you ever watch the old Star Trek episodes, you see the computers. It's hysterical when there's one episode where they go back to like 1970 something or whatever, and they're in like a Navy station, and they go into a computer room, and it's just these reels. Anyway, the point is, evolution there's a walking, talking, living example of it all around us. Cars have evolved, buildings have evolved, archaeology has evolved. Archaeology. Well, that too, but architecture is what I was actually thinking of. Architecture has evolved, how we build buildings, how we build houses. When I was a little kid, it took a whole summer for a house to be built. Now, you can see a house actually come to be completed in like a matter of weeks. Maybe a month tops. It's ridiculous. So anyway, the point is, if people who say, oh, you don't see evolution, that's bullshit. Evolution, you see evolution all the time, everywhere. You see it in how we've domesticated animals, how we've created the many different species of dogs and cats and horses and cows and goats and sheep. All that's through artificially induced natural selection. It's like humans basically driving or controlling how the selection process goes to create a desired result. So anyway, evolution is everywhere. You go to castles in England, you're going to have to bend down low to walk through the doors, because the people back in the days when those castles were built were a lot shorter than we are. So anyway, I think you see evolution everywhere. You see examples of it everywhere. You do not see creation anywhere. There's absolutely nothing. There's absolutely no indication that creationism exists today or ever existed. Nothing just pops into existence because a wizard waves a magic wand. There's absolutely nothing to prove it. So therefore, Christians who thumb their noses at evolution and say, oh, it's just a theory, they have absolutely no right to put down something that worked so hard to get to be a theory when their idea is just sitting there in a book, and their only claim that it's true is because the book says it's true, which is kind of what the whole thing about religion. Oh, it's true because it says, the book here, the Bible says it's true, so it's true. I have a hard time believing I ever believed or ever thought that way. So anyway, if you've been watching, thank you. Bye!